named Apollos. He's a disciple of John the Baptist. No doubt he heard Jesus teach, and he goes off on his own to do his own mission. So when St. Paul gets to Ephesus, he finds a group of people who know about Jesus, would call themselves disciples, and yet for some reason they never heard that Jesus had another baptism. They never heard of the Holy Spirit. You know, those are two big chunks of Christianity, aren't they? So who has authority to tell us the reality of Jesus Christ? So these are, again, people who believe in him, but they're just not going to, just like one group, they could not take, I am the bread of life. Now you've got others who believe, that don't believe he has been eternally begotten from all ages, as we hear in the Creed of Nicaea. Now, there was a famous group of people. The reason why the council was called, they were called Arians. And the Arians believed that Jesus became divine when he was baptized. He was not born divine. He becomes divine. And Arianism really, really split the church. It was rampant. And in fact, the Visigoths that invaded, the Roman Empire, actually they were Christians, they were Arians. That's interesting. And so, this goes back, so you're having here an historical debate at the time of people who believe in Jesus, but they're not going to accept that he is the pre-existent Son of God. Now, where would you find somewhere in the Old Testament the idea of a Son of God that existed before the universe was created? You find it in the book of Proverbs, chapter 8. Book of Proverbs, chapter 8. And in the book of Proverbs, it talks about wisdom. And, let me see here. Proverbs chapter 8. Now, what I do find amazing is that all too often Christians make a mistake that's understandable. We equate wisdom with the Holy Spirit. Maybe that's because we got a lot of people that pray before final exams. For some reason, we put wisdom as the Holy Spirit. The place of the Holy Spirit is love. The Son of God is wisdom. And if we were to go to a Greek Orthodox or a Greek or Ukrainian rite of the Catholic Church, the Melkite rites, these are the of John Chrysostom, when they hold up the gospel book, their proclamation is different than ours. They hold up the gospel book and chant out wisdom. And the people respond, let us be attentive. Christ is the wisdom of God. And there's something else about this wisdom. Wisdom is rather creative. The first time the word wisdom is used in the Old Testament, the word for wisdom in Hebrew is chokhmah. Chokhmah. And the first time you'll see it in the Old Testament is in the book of Exodus, chapter 31. God has a plan to build his dwelling place among us. Where are we in this passage? Feast of Tabernacles. All right. celebrating God making his home among us. The Ark of the Covenant, the building itself, the tent of witness, the vessels for the worship service, altar, all this. And it said that Bezalel was given divine skill to build. He was given Chokmah to be able to build the home of God. All right. And so now, that beautiful image, Chokmah, wisdom is not just the intellect. Wisdom is in hands, construction, that build, that bring up, that heal. How many here have been to a doctor? Yeah, everybody, one of us, right? How many things are diagnosed by putting your fingers on the plate, right? Yeah. So knowledge isn't in the brain only. And so that idea, so let's start connecting the dots here. Feast of Tabernacles. Pre-existent Son of God. Wisdom existed before the world was made. Wisdom as skill to build. Build what? The tabernacle. The home. Now I'm going to look at the last, toward the end of Proverbs chapter 8. Well, really I'm going to start on verse 27. Wisdom. When he established the heavens, I was there. When he marked out the vault over the face of the deep, I was there. When he set forth the sea its limit, so that the waters would not transgress his command, then I was beside him as his craftsman. I was beside him as his craftsman. Pre-existent Son of God, through whom all things are made. And I was his delight day by day, playing before him all the while, playing on the surface of his earth. And I found delight in the sons of the children of man, to the humans. I found delight in the human. The Word is made flesh because of love to redeem. I was his craftsman. Has anybody come to a conclusion yet? What was the day job of the Son of God? He was a craftsman, right? It makes sense, doesn't it? Is this not the carpenter's son? Yes. That is. It is. See, I know the Father. I was at his side. I was at creation. I was at creation. And so, that whole image, pre-existent Son of God, already it's hinted at here in the book of Proverbs. Wisdom is a person, not an idea. Wisdom's creative, not just an idea. And I was at his side. I was his craftsman. And so, this whole passage we've gone through, or chapter 8, we can see what the dynamic on the Feast of Tabernacles is behind this. Asserting he is the meaning of the Torah. We see him. He is the light that enlightens us. To come to a knowledge about the reality, about the dimensions of humanity. To take the light in human beings. The ancient gods created humans to be slaves, toys, whatever. Notice again at the Last Supper you'll hear Jesus say this, I call you friends. Slaves do not know what the master's about, but friends do. And earlier here in chapter 9, he talked about the slaves never stay permanently in the house, but the son does. Believing in him sets you free. Now I want to go through two things, being set free and also truth. I testify to truth. We keep hearing truth. Now, the word for truth in Hebrew is emet. You can perhaps only remember that word because there's an Irish name called Emmet, correct? Truth in Hebrew is emet. Now, truth is more than mathematical truth. Truth is more than just, okay, who did it? Testimony, in a trial. Truth is more than an idea that works, so it must be real. Truth is deeper than that. Here's an example even in English language. You take your wedding vows. I promise to be true to you in good times and in bad. To be true to a person. Does that mean you give accurate information all the time? It helps. But to be true means what? To be counted on. To be dependable. You can count on this. If so-and-so said something, remember, here's an expression in English. If so-and-so said this, well, you can take it to the bank. Right? To be truth is not just is not an issue of logic, it's also an image of the reality of being true, of being faithful, being committed, to be set free. Here we have people who, you say, wait, we're not slaves. Well, there's more to slavery than being owned by somebody. There's more to it. Here, Jesus is looking at people who are enslaved in terms of an attitude. He can't be a prophet. He healed somebody on the Sabbath. I don't know, if I saw somebody heal another, I'd be really floored. I mean, just amazed. So what do? They condemn him. Or the famous woman caught in adultery, another example. Being freed, you judge by appearances. I don't. To be free from that. Or very often, to be free of many things. Not just physical slavery. And also, this idea of truth moves into this beautiful reality that he speaks about in terms of this type of freedom. Because when you can count on another person, you are free from worry. If there are other people in your life that you can count on, you are free from anxiety, worry. You're not wondering what's happening all the time, are you? You're free. How often, I'm sure any one of us has had an experience where there was an accident somewhere. That's the same route that he or she takes to come back home. And how you worried. Or somebody always shows up at a certain time. Now they don't show up. What's happened? What's going on? waiting for a phone call. Desperate to hear, is everything okay? So it's very important. Because Jesus says he is the truth. It doesn't mean that what he's giving, I'm sure Jesus, of course, it's more than giving us accurate information about God. But we can count on him. We are relieved. And that's a powerful spiritual freedom. To be relieved from an anxiety about judgment or condemnation. Christ is the one we can count on. In fact, how many people have made a certain type of retreat called the Crucio, and people receive a crucifix, and it says, Christ is counting on you. And the response, and I on him. And so that is a very powerful image. That he returns, he comes back, we can count on him. And it takes us all up to the crucifix, the cross. Because what we count on from Jesus Christ is the gift of his life. Notice every gospel. Jesus is on the cross and people demand a sign. Come down, why don't you? Then we'll believe. But the whole point of his life is the cross. Being lifted up. And that was always a stumbling block for many people. That he goes to the cross. But that is the key to salvation. The perfect gift of himself that we might have life. And always keep this in mind. My last remark before we end this session. The true opposite of faith is not having doubts. If you have no doubts, you don't have faith. You have knowledge. You don't doubt that it's raining out here, right? You have direct experience. Does faith exist in heaven? No, because you have direct experience with God. And the opposite of faith is a virtue. It accepts what we do not see. It recognizes. Maybe it can't be proven. If you have no doubts, well, congratulations, you're lucky. You got to have the vision that I didn't get, which is beautiful. Notice something else. Anybody ever been to Lourdes? Well, a lot of people get cured at Lourdes, correct? One person didn't get cured. Bernadette Soubirous, the one who had the vision. Think about it. The one who doesn't get cured is the one who had the vision. And that's a powerful test of faith, isn't it? Because I had an experience that healed everybody else. But she had her cross to bear. And so, the opposite of faith is not doubts or disappointments. The opposite of faith is ridicule. They laughed at Jesus while he hung upon the cross. Come down from there, why don't you? Then we'll believe in you. You're going to destroy the temple in 3 days and build another one? Come down, why don't you? There's only one person besides the beloved disciple who in the Gospel of Luke I especially enjoy. The only person who doesn't laugh at Jesus, with the exception of the Blessed Mother and the other women that are there, and the beloved disciple. Because remember, everybody else is run away. Only one person among the Gentiles doesn't ridicule him. That's the guy that's dying next door to him. Yeah. Best words of faith you could ever imagine. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next week. We'll be starting chapter 9, and I'll have archaeological exposition for you of the Pool of Siloam, where this event takes place. And the archaeology of this site is exciting. Thank you all very much.